It is time. We're going to review the OG. Most people say this is the best adaptation of Spider-Man. While I disagree with that, it is undeniable that this series is a classic. The Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy was... What else could you say about it? That it was just magnificent. Were they perfect? No. Were they really, really great? Yes. People got really bummed out that there wasn't a Spider-Man 4. You know, my boy Andrew Garfield took the role. Made the best Spider-Man of all time. And the rest was history. But we're not here to discuss my favorite Spider-Man. We're here to discuss the OG Spider-Man. We're going to start it off with the perfect superhero origin. What's so great about these movies is the Raimi charm that is a little dated. The jokes are corny, but as a whole, I don't have major complaints about this movie. It's a classic Peter Parker Spider-Man tale. You got Uncle Ben, you got Aunt May, you got Mary Jane. You even included Harry's friend. You even include Peter's friend Harry, which was nice. And we made this. We meet the people we were gonna follow for this whole trilogy. This whole trilogy was about Peter, MJ, and Harry. I like that. I like that this trilogy was about those three main leads. It was about them. But there's one slight problem with this movie, and it's like, yeah, Pete is an asshole at first because he doesn't know with great power comes great responsibility at first. But like, the whole thing about him getting bit doesn't make any sense because realistically, if they saw a spider go missing, they would stop what they were doing and look for it, if we're being realistic. But there could have been a different way you could have got Peter bit, but you had to have him being horny for MJ, and he had to get bit. But that's besides the point. Those are like minor negatives. What I really big positive about this movie is Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker / Spider-Man. If you want a classic Spider-Man tale from the comics, this is the closest you're gonna get. And most people like this movie. The critics didn't really like this movie, but that's besides the point. But was this movie perfect? Is it S tier? No, it's not. It is not S tier. But there's another positive that I'm wanting to talk about. Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn / Green Goblin. Now, we all know, we don't call him... He's so good at this point that we can't call him Willem Dafoe no more. We gotta call him Willem the Goat. We can't just call him Dafoe anymore. It's gotta be the Goat because he's great in this one. And he's great in the cameos he has in Spider-Man 2. And of course, he's amazing in No Way Home. Review coming soon. But the thing is, people always used to lie and say Peter was always a good guy. No. This portrays him accurately. he does care about people. He cares about people that are close to him. But if you don't benefit him in any way, he doesn't want you sticking around. And when he did the fucking thing for the $3,000 and the guy fucks him, he became, this is pre-Bully Maguire Spider-Man. This is pre-Bully Maguire, but it was Bully Maguire-esque to go, I missed the part, but that's my problem. Granted, the guy that fucked him in the money said it first. Did he deserve it because he was an asshole? I mean, you could argue yes. But Peter didn't use his power for good responsibility. And then when Uncle Ben dies, it gets through to him. I can't use this power for selfishness and wickedness. I gotta use it with great responsibility. I gotta protect everybody so they don't end up like me. That's what I got out of it. I love how Pete's like, you didn't give him a chance. Like this, he went after the uncle's killer. All that, it was amazing. Obviously, it will be retconned later on. His Uncle Ben's death, but we'll get to that when we get there. But the guy that killed Uncle Ben died. Peter didn't. It didn't make him feel better, even though he thought it would. But it just doesn't. I don't know. Quite frankly, because I always say it like this: revenge is a fool's game. It's too risky to care about driving somebody down. To really care about getting revenge on somebody, it's very risky. It could ruin your reputation. It could ruin you as a person. It could do a whole lot. But with that being said, let's discuss Pete's love interest. People really like to dog on Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane, which some of it, with the writing of the character, it's justified, but to attack her as a person, no, you can't do that. You're acting like she had control of what her character was. She didn't. And to dog her out, I have to say that was wrong for whoever did that. It's okay to not like something, but to attack people because of that no, you can't do that. That's just goofy. It's goofy behavior. It could hurt people, and it's just not the right way to go about things. It just really, really isn't. But in this movie, I liked her. I liked when Pete got to know her and made him love her even more. I liked that when he figured out who she was and what she wanted to be, and how she liked how Peter was the only one that supported her in her wanting to do the career. How but the thing is, Mary Jane is just a damsel in this series. Every villain, it's a nitpick. You got to get Peter the care. I understand, but like every fucking time in Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3, she's always the damsel in distress. There's nothing else about her but just being a damsel in distress. It's pretty crazy. We obviously know the Tobey Maguire suit is iconic. It's the classic OG suit. We all love it. It's not better than TASM 2, but it's definitely a very, very big classic. It's just a classic suit, and I love it. Unlike the Stark suit, because the Stark suit is atrociously fucking horrible. But we're not talking about that. We talked about that yesterday. We talked about the other day. Uh, but with that being said, I'm going to discuss the ending of Spider-Man 1. With Willem Dafoe being Green Goblin. He kidnaps Mary Jane. She's a damsel in distress. That's all she is. And it just happens in every one of these. But that's besides the point. She, you know, Peter and Spider-Man and Green Goblin had that big fight, and then the acting of Willem Dafoe in the final scenes is just fucking immaculate. There's not enough I can say. There's not enough praise I could give Willem Dafoe, but the way he switched from Goblin to Norman it's perfect, and he can do it snap of a finger, and it's just fucking amazing. The cowering Norman, the Goblin uses it as a last resort. And the line of Peter finally saying he had a father and his name was Ben Parker. The iconic line, the iconic line. Yeah, in the ending, Peter rejects MJ because he has to be Spider-Man, and MJ realizes, well, she doesn't realize Peter's Spider-Man, but she just felt off about the kiss. It felt very familiar. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Now, we're going to move on to Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2. People really put this movie on a very high pedestal, which it is really, really fucking good. It's almost perfect. This takes on the foundation of a really good movie and makes it spectacular. People try to say this is the best Spider-Man movie of all time, which I do disagree. But it's definitely top 5, top 3. But Harry is mad at Spider-Man because he thinks he killed his father, and Peter will not. Peter is just he's under so much pressure, and it's just like he can't handle it. Him being Spider-Man and all that made him forget his birthday. He didn't know, and he kept missing MJ shows, which was really pissing her off. And then everything just part. If you're thinking a life going to shit, it's literally just what you would expect. It's Peter Parker-esque. It goes to shit. Every time Spider-Man saves somebody, it's damning and very damning for Peter Parker. That's why it's hard for him to live both lives. Because when Spider-Man succeeds, Peter fails. And when Peter succeeds, Spider-Man fails. It's a complicated system for this. But that's just... That's just, it's just spectacular. Now, we already know, Harry, MJ, and Peter are still here, played by, Toby, Kirsten Dunst, and James Franco. They've returned. Now we get Alfred Molina as Dr. Otto Octavius, Dr. Octopus. And Alfred Molina does fan-fucking-tastic. You wonder why they brought him back for No Way Home and didn't just do another new Doc Ock. You wonder why they had to bring back Green Goblin, William Dafoe's Green Goblin. You wonder why they had to fucking do that. Because they were so fucking good. It was amazing. Obviously, pun not intended, but I like how Otto is just, he looks up to him like Tom Holland's Peter looks up to Tony Stark. And there's not much. Tobey Maguire is always great as Spider-Man. And yeah, these movies are truly the GOATs. And there's not really much else you could say. So let me discuss the major parts of this movie. Peter Parker's life goes to shit, and he has an existential crisis. And when his mind and body is unhealthy to the point of where Peter's is, his powers don't work. And he decides, with all the bullshit, he can't be Spider-Man no more. When I first saw I wasn't young, so I didn't cry, but I was like, damn. When I first saw Spider-Man 2, and then it was a dream, and Peter told Uncle Ben he's Spider-Man no more. That will get you. That will get you. He wants to have a life. He wants to love. He wants to fall in love. He wants to be him. And the whole thing about Dr. Otto, the chip breaking and the tentacle arms taking over him. And with that, it takes him over, and he wants to complete his machine, the Collider, the power of the sun in the palm of his hands, as Doc Ock says. And the premise is great. What I love about Otto Octavius in this movie, he has, before the Collider incident, he pretty much had everything Peter wanted. He had the girl, who is coincidentally also a redhead, and he had a job that he loved. The fact that Peter looked up to Otto, and that was great. Now, let me discuss the ending. Mary Jane gets kidnapped again. Shocker. She's trapped. Pete comes to save her. It's a it's an epic fight. It's a pretty good fight. Doc Ock starts the Collider. It's unstable and dangerous, and Pete Spider-Man uses Peter to get to Otto. Dr. Octavius finds out that Peter is Spider-Man, brilliant but lazy. And he convinces him to not let the arms control him, be the kind, benevolent man that he was before the arms took over. And he finally does listen. and he says he's gonna stop the collider from hurting anybody. And he doesn't, and I love the line of how he doesn't want to die a monster. I love that. Yeah. And then MJ finds out Peter is Spider-Man. She realizes why he couldn't show up for her in all those times, because he had to be Spider-Man. He had to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And they go up on the web. Peter again rejects MJ because he knows he can't do that to her, put her in danger by being in a relationship with her. And even though he knows he really wants her, but he knows he can't have her because it will get her killed in the long run, because Spider-Man has plenty of villains and they hate him and they'll kill the ones he loves. So MJ goes to marry the astronaut, but she leaves him at the altar. God damn. And the thing is about the astronaut, J. Jonah Jameson's son, he seemed like a pretty decent guy. Like he's not an asshole. He's not like a rich asshole like his father. He has that, he was decent. But he left her at the altar, and now MJ says, no, it's not your choice, Peter. It's because she wants to be with them, and now they are officially together. Spider-Man ruins wedding. But for this to be a good ending for Peter, I honestly really liked it. And I know the sequel is going to make everything go downhill for him, but for right now, Peter is having the time of his life. He got the girl that he loves very much, and he's still stopping crime. He now has the girl that he's wanted for so long. He finally gets to have her. And it feels good. I feel happy for him. In the comics, all Peter did was suffer. That's all he did. All he did. And while discussing the ending, we have to talk about the ending of where Harry Osborn finds out Spider-Man is his best bud, Peter Parker. And knowing that Spider-Man killed his father, which means Peter killed his father. His friend killed his father. And we get a very good cameo from Willem Dafoe talking about avenging him, and Harry's like, no! And there we go. That's the setup for Spider-Man 3. And they were building, they didn't do it perfectly, but they're building up for Harry to become the next Green Goblin. Obviously with a different design, because you can't just copy Willem Dafoe's design, the other Green Goblin design. But yeah. Anyways, let's get to the final movie in this review, in this three-movie review, Spider-Man 3. This movie, at first, it got dogged on. Everyone hated this movie. It was like TASM 2. Everyone dogged on it. Everyone loved the first two, but the third one was so off. Even Sam Raimi himself didn't really like this movie because he had to force in Venom. The studio forced him to put Venom in the movie. Now, me personally, my favorite Spider-Man villains are the Prowler and Venom. And when I found out Venom was in this movie, That's fucking awesome. And we're gonna get a symbiote story with a black suit. That's just the icing on the cake, you see. But the problem is, this movie is really, really good. It just has the wrong pacing. That's the only negative I would say about this movie, is the pacing. If you thought Mary Jane was an asshole in Spider-Man 2, this is the movie that where she got dogged the most for because of what her character did. She cheated on Peter with Harry, and nah. We find out Harry has been taking the supplements his father used to become the next Goblin. Meanwhile, a guy escapes prison to check up on his daughter. The problem with this is, guys, this happens in 10 to 15 minutes. All of what I explained to you happened in 10 to 15 minutes. We had the good scene with MJ and Peter on the web, and the alien goo comes flying down. The symbiote flies down, gets on Peter's motorcycle. Then we get the scene of Harry Harry testing the supplements on himself, the same steroids that his father used, and then we get Flint Marco escaping from the cops. All within a 10 to 15 minute period. Now, this movie pretty much has 3 villains. It becomes 2 towards the end, but it begins, you have 3 villains set up already within 10 to 15 minutes. That is kind of bad because you need this to be a 2-hour movie. You have Harry jump Peter while he's on his way home 20 minutes in. We had the first climactic fight 20 minutes in. Is that too soon? Maybe it is. But don't get me wrong, it's everything. There's no bad scenes. They're not bad scenes. It's just, it's all rushed. That's all this is. Sam Raimi, even when he didn't want to do it, he still made a good Venom movie. That, even though he didn't want to do it, he didn't even know about the character, and he still did it pretty good in my opinion. Now, let's talk about Peter. Not only is MJ an asshole in this movie, Peter is too. He gets a big ass ego. He forgets what Uncle Ben taught him. With the great power comes great responsibility. Even before he gets a symbiote, he was still starting to act weird. The symbiote just amplified that. He's losing his ways. Which, that's a concept I really enjoyed about this movie. Then you get Eddie Brock. Edward Brock Jr., played by Topher Grace. Topher, no shade to Topher Grace, but was he really the best you got for Venom? I mean, like, really? Was he really the best choice? I mean, it's like, you got all this combustible. He doesn't really fit Venom at all. Because, you know, the character of Venom, he was always supposed to be buff, like a Flash Thompson or something. Like a buff big guy. But Topher Grace, he's your average guy. No shade to being just an average, smaller guy. That's no shade, but that's not what we need in Venom. We want Venom to be intimidating with big muscles and shit. That's Venom. But that's the problem. Topher Grace wasn't really a good... He wasn't really a good casting choice. He's a good actor, but I don't think Venom was right for someone for him. But Topher Grace is Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock in this movie, I honestly, I like the idea what they're going for. Eddie Brock was essentially Peter if he had no morals, no respect, and just wanted to do everything for himself. Which I enjoyed that. This movie, the whole Bully Maguire stuff and everything, we gotta talk about the iconic scene where the symbiote gets on Peter. Where somehow he gets his mask back on too, because we obviously saw him without the mask while sleeping. But I can let stupid shit like that go. But then you can't tell me the soundtrack of this movie is not goated. Like, bro. If the minor problems were tweaked out in this movie would have been a masterpiece. It would have been perfect. The ideas in the core elements of this movie, I really like them. I do. It's just, it's all rushed. And maybe you could have done somebody else other than Topher Grace. The whole thing about Gwen, they introduced Gwen, which is obviously, if you know the comics, is one of other Spider-Man's love interest. We saw it in The Amazing Spider-Man, where Gwen was the love interest instead of Mary Jane. Very weird choice to introduce Gwen here, because she's just there. She's just like, she's an asshole, but she's oblivious to the fact that she's an asshole. She goes to the dinner that Peter and MJ puts her hand on his shoulder, knowing that's his woman right there. And Peter's an asshole too for not really thinking about it, if you really cared about what MJ thought. But, yeah. But now let's talk about Flint Marko. I feel this guy probably would have been a better Venom than Topher Grace, but that's beside. Maybe you could have swapped. Maybe the Topher Grace, maybe he could have been Flint Marko, and then the actor that played Sandman could have been Edward Brock Trigger. So that if we're being comic accurate, Venom is a buff boy. He's a buff boy. But the thing is, you don't always have to be comic accurate, and it's your freedom to do whatever you want with your story. But that's besides the point. Now let's talk about the ending. Spoiler warning, just in case if you haven't watched this movie. Mary Jane is a damsel in distress again. This happens after Peter had his whole emo phase, his Bully Maguire dance. He beat Harry's ass, threw a pumpkin bomb at his face, and then did a stupid dorky dance outside where people looked at him like, is this dude serious? And it was intentional. That was intentional. The way the director's cut. What's funny is about the director's cut, right after Pete fights Harry, it switches over to him dancing. That's funny. Where in the theater, you would get him get Peter in the shower, but no. You get the pumpkin bomb. He throws the pumpkin bomb to his face. It transitions. He's just fucking. That's just peak Bully Maguire-esque shit right there. I love how Aunt May reminds Peter of who he was. And another, and yeah, anime is amazing, but you know, the thing is, I kinda don't like the ending because Peter, his ego. I mean, I feel like even though he does the right thing, he had an ego before, and it didn't. It caused him to get in some trouble with like Mary Jane dumping him and shit. But there should be bigger consequences for Peter not understanding MJ. Um, him running off when she needed to really talk to him. But that's besides the point. The ending I absolutely love. Besides one point I would change. Mary Jane's a damsel in distress again. Shocker, right? Sandman and Venom are fighting Spider-Man. It's too much for him. But who is there to save the day after his butler finally tells him the truth of what happened to his father? That's one thing that's kind of weird. If we're being realistic, Bernard would have told Harry immediately. He would have told him how his father died. We would have avoided the argument but you know, you have to have them argue somehow. But Bernard could have easily just told him, but he just tells him now after he gets his ass beat by Peter. Yeah, your friend didn't kill your father. He killed himself basically. What would have been funny is if Harry Osborn was like, you know this all this time and you pick now to tell me. You're so fired. And that's kind of another nitpick. Not realistic. Harry should have been known that's what happened to Harry. If Bernard didn't know this information, then that would have been different. But the thing is, he did know the information. He knows that Norman Osborn didn't kill. Knows that Norman Osborn killed himself with his own glider, which is just, you know. But that's besides the point. After he gets told that, Harry realizes Peter was his friend the whole time. And he helps Peter fight Sandman and Venom. The embrace between them two at the end was fucking fantastic. Eddie Brock suicide because he wanted to be Venom so bad? Yeah. And Harry Osborn sacrificing himself to help Peter instead of trying to kill Peter. That's a very big contrast to how Norman Osborn died. He died selfishly because of his own selfishness, where Harry dies because of his selflessness. I love that. That's perfect. You get the scene of the big trio these 3 movies have been following the whole time. Mary Jane, Peter, Harry. Harry dies saying, Pete, you're always my best friend and you will always be my best friend. And Mary Jane is singing at the bar. Pete walks in, they dance, and there you go. There's your movie. That's Spider-Man. That's Sam Raimi's trilogy. Wow. When you watch these movies back to back to back, it's something special. It's just something special. People were always wondering why did Spider-Man 4 not get made? I feel this was the almost perfect conclusion to the series. You didn't really need Spider-Man 4. You really didn't. And obviously we know what happened 5 years after this movie. The Amazing Spider-Man 1 came out. My personal favorite Spider-Man movie. But, yeah. But, my closing statements about the Sam Raimi trilogy. It's just goated. It's undeniably a classic. You can't undermine what classics these films are, and the memes that have come from this series, they're all fucking great. The Bully Maguire meme, fantastic. And I feel this is perfect. This is a perfect way to end the series. Almost perfect. I mean, but yeah. You know, but yeah. This is the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and the Spider-Man No Way Home review is coming soon. You might get a few videos that are not related to that. I might drop the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse review soon. I might, yeah. Since I already pretty much reviewed across, but that's besides the point. But Spider-Man No Way Home coming soon, the biggest comic book movie. But see you when I get there, guys. Peace.